Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Nice. Okay. As a music producer, I'm trying to step into the shoes of the client and the agency who created the campaign. So I'm trying to figure out, what does the music need to do to actually deliver this narrative or this idea that's expressed in the film to its full potential? What can the music do? In a lot of beat-based music, it's all about the groove. Like if you can lock me in the groove, I don't care how many bars this groove is going on. Like you could do you can do all sorts of subtle things and I'm still locked into the groove, and that's enough to make the track a success. But the thing is, in advertising, we're trying to tell a story, and so the way the music unfolds needs to have a lot more dynamism. It needs to literally take the viewer from point A to point B to point C to point D.
Mm,
So what
okay.
we always hear time and time again when we submit music, no matter how infectious, like how head nodding the groove is always like, well, we'd like to feel a development in the track. Like as in the beginning, it's sort of like is there pulling you in, then it sort of pulls you in into a certain pattern, but then it like elevates, it
Mm,
elevates. And then at the end, always at the end, man, it's never fails. They always want the music to be at the highest point somewhere near the end of the commercial.
okay, okay,
And
that's a good
that's the
point.
musical journey. So the
Yeah.
more you can like build those stairs into
Mm,
your beat, into your track, whereby I'm getting a sense that where I started is not where I'm ending. In other
mm,
words, this was a journey. This was a
yeah.
journey from like, I wonder what this is all about. Oh wow, this is a nice beat. And then like next up is like, oh, there's a switch here. I didn't
Mm.
see that coming, right? And as much as you can do that in concert with the visual, so really watching what the story is doing, where the cuts are happening, the more the beat dances in its evolution toward that climax with
Yeah.
what's happening on the screen, the better. And that's why I also say, like, you know, um, it's really good to be working inside of a DAW as much as possible, because then you're literally in the same session as where the music making is taking place and your video is there. So you could literally coordinate it more fluently
Mm.
than, you're over here on your MPC just kind of looking at the screen and trying to figure out, is this working or not? But having said this, like I told you before, we've done this before where we establish a general idea like you did on
Yeah.
the MPC, on the sampler, but then very quickly we try to transport it so that all those tools we've built up in the MPC, all those layers, the palette,
Yeah.
it's inside of our DAW. Apart from that, I'm quite happy with the general vibe of the track. So now it's just a matter of like, touching it up here and there, more of a sense of an evolution, making sure the sample's cleared. If that's all beautiful, I'm really looking forward to the next version. I'm really excited to hear it.
No, thank you so much, Tommy. I really appreciate the feedback. That's great too. I love how you put the part about the building of the stairs. That's some really good information just for me to just take, just personally as well. Because that you just gave me a good idea of how I probably can also add something to the end of it. And I like how you said how you started here, but then once you get to step 4, you take it to a whole nother place, and the ending is always
Absolutely.
dramatic.
The whole thing is like, I know a lot of beat makers are
Mm-hmm,
very good at what they do,
mm-hmm,
but they have to remember that if you step into this arena, now this is a different context.
mm-hmm,
There's
mm-hmm.
not going to be a rapper walking in and filling in your beat with that
Right.
missing dimension of the lead vocal.
Right, right.
So, in absence of that vocal, we have to make the music do the storytelling. So,
Mm-hmm,
this is where you have to like not only have maybe a groove, but find some kind of a lead,
mm-hmm,
perhaps,
mm-hmm.
that's going to be like a replacement for a lead vocal. And that's going to
Yeah,
establish like the main thread or whatever. Or maybe like that will be the thing that makes way for the climax, for the hook that's going to
yes.
happen at the end. But
Like kind of
that's
like an
something that people just
instrumental.
have to get used to.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
That's something that beat makers have to get used to, man, because they might be really good at making beats,
Mm-hmm.
but the context is a bit different when you're making music for picture. It's like they
Mm-hmm.
expect the music to do heavier lifting.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's a challenge and that's a skill
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be necessary for anybody who wants to get into this game, who already
Mm-hmm.
knows how to make beats, but they're going to have to master that very specific craft of like having that beat carry the narrative load of the story, and not
Absolutely.
just being like a hypnotic, cool beat that we can nod our head to. That's not going to be ever enough, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think, in the
Mm-hmm.
world of advertising. Unless you have a lead vocal, and like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
voice everybody recognizes, then that's enough.
Right.
But in the
Right.
absence of it, if you're just creating music for picture, yeah, we're going to need to figure that out.
I think it was
Oh,
froze a little bit, but it's back on. But just can you hear me? Okay.
okay. Yep, yep.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, for people that want to, do this and get into the business, what's the programs that you recommend that you said you use when you're importing the commercial or the movie and you're putting the soundtrack together? What's the programs that you recommend?
So most of the DAWs that people use in our business are Logic,
Okay. Yeah,
Cubase,
I have Logic. Yeah.
Ableton, and
Hmm.
sometimes Pro Tools. So you got to be
Okay.
working in your music program and not a film editing program.
So you're using Logic.
And any of the major DAWs include, yeah, you can use Logic, even Fruity Loops, man. Like back in
Wow.
the day, Fruity Loops, wasn't for this, but now I've heard, I don't use Fruity Loops, but I know
Mm,
people who use Fruity Loops have told me that you can import film files,
mm.
and you can make music to the picture. So that's what I would recommend.
Nice. And then I remember, like how we had said, working with other advertising companies. I know that they're always worried about samples, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that was something I wanted to mention in the video. So it's actually better to hear it coming from you. I did make sure to, because I've
Mm.
heard that before about samples. Everybody's always so worried about samples unless it's clear. But I did make sure, I know it sounds like a straight sample, but I did make sure to chop it to where the sample is unrecognizable. I know that there's those little clearing issues, but I did remember that there was a report, I believe, with the Supreme Court that if you chop a sample a certain amount, that you don't have to pay the copyright fees and all that. So I made sure to.
I don't, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to make sure, but
Of
if it's
course,
not recognizable,
yeah. If it's not
probably.
recognizable, then you're on.
But you
Then you're
never
good.
know. That's
Yeah,
the
it's true.
problem these
Yeah,
days. Is like some
yeah.
people, it's not. It's especially the labels.
Mm,
We're talking about tracks that may be known, for instance, and they
of
try to
course.
license Drake, and then like
Yeah.
Drake is not affordable for this campaign. So then they go off and do some know that the label and the publisher is just listening
It sounds like
because they
Drake.
know the agency and the brand just came to them
Yeah.
and they didn't want to. So they're watching, they're listening now to see what is the agency and what is the brand going to do
Mm.
as a replacement. And so sometimes they might even like sue, even if it doesn't even like, I wouldn't say go as far as sue, but like it's a really sensitive situation right now.
Okay.
Music companies have to get insurance, special insurance, and that's required of them, especially in the US. If you want to work on an advertising campaign with a brand, you have to be insured against liability for errors and omissions. It's called EO insurance,
Mm.
and that basically insures you from being like potentially sued by a record label or a publisher or whoever, copyright owner, if they determine the track sounds close. So that's why I mentioned that as the first before talking about like revisions and changes to the track, because that alone could undo your career, no matter how great you are, unless you take care of the biggest risks first. What's the point of being amazing if what you're submitting is actually unusable?
Yeah.
And it's your responsibility to do it, or else, like I said, like nobody's gonna want to work with you. So you always want to be like totally 100% sure that whatever you're submitting has zero chance or zero copyright claims that could be put on it.
Yeah. That's why you got all the keyboards in the background.
That's right, man. That's right.
Playing
That's right.
stuff.
That's why I try to cook
Yeah. Yeah.
homemade, not store bought.
I hear that. I hear that. That's dope. Well, hey, well, thank you so
Yeah,
much,
man.
Tommy. I mean, I guess I got the information to go with, and yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity
Right
again,
on.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. I'm looking forward to hearing the final product, and yeah, I'm excited, man.
definitely,
Good luck in the
definitely.
studio, brother.